Hello everyone, so welcome to the third lesson in your course, Foundations of Special and Inclusive Education. So in this particular lesson, we shall be dealing with ability and disability as a dimension of diversity. So we'll look at the specifics of each as why they are considered to be dimension of diversity respectively. To start off, of course, in this particular dimension, we have to see what ability is, to which does it refer. So according to Collins English Dictionary, ability refers to the possession of the qualities required to do something. It's a necessary skill or competence, or even called power. So someone who has the ability is of course well capacitated or able to act on something because initially he or she has the skills, or he or she possesses not just the qualities but even the power or the strength to carry on something and to make something tangible out of concepts maybe, or to make creation out of something. That is ability. And of course, we have to remember that since we are coming from different walks of life, or we have different orientations, and we are exposed to different experiences, and even we have in our outer circle, definitely we have varying status when it comes to economic status, of course, or even our social status. And these are all but one of the many reasons or factors why we too in our abilities would vary. All right, no two people share the same ability. Well, of course, we can be both writers, we can be both singers, or we can be both carpenters, but at the end of the day, our craft or our work would have hairline difference, or would show uniqueness. All right, so that is ability. What about disability? All right, so on the other hand, it is defined by the World Health Organization as the umbrella term for impairments. All right, so on the other hand, remember, activity limitations and participation restrictions. Of course, referring to the negative aspects of the interaction between an individual with, all right? So you have to specify individuals having restrictions because of their health condition. And of course, with individuals, contextual factors such as environmental and personal factors. So this ability, as obviously and as everybody else of us know, is that when you are not able to carry out an activity or a task, or even a normal routine for that matter, because you are incapacitated. There's something wrong perhaps in your physical abilities. You were born with a disability in your physical structure, or not just in your physical or health condition, but it may also be because of environment or personal factors. Okay, so these are what makes a person disabled. All right, so what would be the impact of this? Definitely there would be lesser interaction or limited interaction by the person which or who has the disability, and with the context or with the environment or atmosphere that he or she is expected to participate or to excel on. But let us not undermine the fact that people who are disabled are also the ones gifted, all right, in so many aspects, or with so many testimonies that we have gone across already. Perhaps you know about the athlete who is one-legged but would be able to swim, or someone who even has how do you call this, a physical disability but would fly an airplane. You know, these are just but few of the many things, of the many testimonies and accounts of experiences and people who, amidst their disability, would show, okay, something that the able would even do, all right? Or perhaps someone who was born blind but would have been able to craft arts that are now renowned in the world, something like that. And there are more to historical accounts to support this. They are disabled, but they are actually more than able, all right, because they are gifted. Okay, so the American Disabilities Act of 1990, ADA, defines disability as a person with a disability is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activity. Definitely. Well, since this act particularly specifies on those that would have mental impairment and physical impairment, then you know exactly who the people concerned here are. Of course, those who have, how do you call this, psychological problems, and those with other ailments categorized under mental incapacities are people who are called disabled, you know, because they are no longer able to function normally, such as the normal people would do. And in the long run, even when they grow old or grow up, there is and will always be the lapse or the fixations and even the lackings, because they are naturally born with these impairments. Disabilities may affect one's senses or more mobility, or one's mobility rather. They may be static or progressive, congenital or acquired, formal, affecting the shape of the body, or functional, visible or invisible. So very importantly, according to Kuzer 2005, it may not necessarily be an inborn or a genetic part of you that right when you were born, these abilities already would show up, all right, would be so obvious or would be very apparent. Times would be disabilities may show along the course of your life, maybe because it is affected by outward or even external factors. And you have to also remember that it could be progressive, okay, like it can worsen as you may grow, or it could be static, like it has always been since the start, your case already. And in fact, it is emphasized here as well that your disability may sometimes not also be obvious, or they may be invisible. Well, in cases of children who would show, let's say for example, in classrooms, let's consider the young children here. I mean, the toddlers or even those that are in the first foundation of schooling, the grade schoolers. You know, there would be children who would tend to show very active, how do you call this, movements or even behavior in class. And then normally and naturally, of course, teachers would let this student behave accordingly, would call the attention, would report perhaps this case to parents, and then parents would eventually as well discipline the child, get in the way, and then do something about it, just forgetting that maybe the child is actually needing something. There must be, behind the disability, there must be something that the child wants to be addressed, all right? And very importantly, those that are invisible, especially during the early ages of a kid or of a child, have to be treated and have to be, you know, given premium attention, so that in the event you get to discover what it is exactly that the child is unable to do, then you are able to aid him or her with proper care and even with proper attention. So that's what Kuzer 2005 is telling us. So look at this. Definitely you see physical structures that would differentiate on how people would look, whether able or disabled. A person's disability makes him or her a unique individual who is at times shunned from places and activities. They have to be acknowledged as part of the spectrum of diversity. So what is this very point telling us? That even if we have folks or family members or even friends, peers, colleagues, or someone we know, an acquaintance who is disabled, we have to remember that they too are significant atoms of the society, and they make the diversity just as beautiful as it is. Without them, diversity is just like having a missing link or a missing piece. Therefore, we should not shame them, we should not be laughing at them, we should not be bullying these people, or we should not be how do you call this, undermining them. We should not underestimate their abilities or even their personalities, and even their very worth, because these people are unique. They are like nobody else, but they, just like us, the normal ones who are able, need to as well be involved in the society, and needs to feel respected and even belong. All right, so the belongingness is one very important consideration that we have to let them feel, in order for them not to shun at themselves or even at their disabilities, and not to even question their existence as people. They have to be recognized as human beings. Look at that. Who should not be discriminated against, but rather understood, accepted, and tolerated. They have to be accorded their rights. So, very specifically and very importantly, this should be our thoughts. This should be our way of thinking, our perspectives, or even our way of embracing people we come across with disabilities. Look at that. In your previous lesson, the term tolerance is actually very important. You know, they have to be tolerated, well, because they had no choice. They couldn't do otherwise. But toleration here just doesn't mean a negative, how do you call this? Just doesn't leave us the negative impression of letting them feel that that's who they are, and that they can't already get over it. Well, there are limitations to the tolerance. It's just that we tolerate them for what they are at the moment, but we have to also understand them and make them feel right. All right, and the importance of leaving them the benefit of the doubt, or even giving them, acknowledging them with their rights as people, is something we could live in their minds or even in their personality, to also recognize, all right, that their existence matters, and that they mean important and indispensable elements in the society where they belong. And simply, that is ability vis-a-vis disability as dimensions of diversity. All right, so it's short a lecture, it's short a discussion, but I hope you guys can have enrichments as you will be sharing your insights, or perhaps if you have prior knowledge, or if you could share stories you have gone across or you have read through that might be able to help in putting a line of difference between ability and disability as a very significant dimension of diversity, then that would be all right. Okay, so I'm expecting your reflections and insights just after this lecture. Thank you and have a productive afternoon.